Hello, cosplay world. We're back with another Tip Tuesday. What are we doing? Well, we're going to do a simple tutorial of vinyl over foam. It's a technique that has kind of fallen out of favor in this day and age. You see a lot of people plastic dipping their foam and doing all these other things. But I want to remind you that even the old techniques still work and look wonderful and all those good things. So even though they're old doesn't mean they're bad. But it's definitely for different use and different textures and different kinds of suits. I'm really a fan of the vinyl over foam technique for very light armors. Not almost a bodysuit scenario, but much lighter than my PVC can do for armors. Much more flexible. I would say, like, if you guys remember Bubblegum Crisis, they had these things called hard suits back in the day. They're very flexible, but they were still very mecha-like suits. I'm not sure if there's an enemy out at the moment that has suits in this way. I remember Eureka 7, the Robot Nirvash, I made the final form, which is this kind of wobbly, jelly, semi-organic mech, and I did vinyl over foam for that. And it worked really well when you don't have, when you want a really complex shape and you want it to be soft and not really rigid, and those kind of weird sort of costumes. This, of course, does work with your rigid armor. I've seen, of course, Fullmetal Alchemist, Edward Alphonse armor. I've seen Gundams from way back done this armor, and of course, all this good stuff. So, this is for a glove, and the reason why I'm going into this is because I have a ton of armor that is employing this technique at the moment. Yeah, these are kind of gauntlet gloves, and I want to be soft, and it's not really necessary for them to be really rigid. It'll just be uncomfortable and in the way, and I want them to match the kind of leather glove that goes with it. So there's the reason why. It also has this really nice kind of like car finish here with this flexibility. It's a little bit heavier than leather, to be sure, and so you get that kind of feel. Of course, gluing down a finish, just like I did with the monocoat, it works in a similar way, except monocoat's a much finer, much more precise, clean look. This this is you don't want to use that monocoat with too much of a wiggly kind of wiggly material, because it will develop cracks much more easily than the vinyl will. You see, it looks pretty good even if you do crinkle it up. Just a texture here. Now, the rule of thumb with vinyl over foam is, of course, weldwood contact cement. It's so well known that I hesitate to say it, because it's just like, well, of course you use weldwood contact cement for vinyl over foam technique. You don't necessarily need to get it in a big container. This, if you're working on small projects, will get the job done. But we're also going to be using hot glue. I'll be going at it in a second. But the reason why we have these big heavy books is because when you're gluing down weldwood, it needs time to cure. So you need something to hold down and put pressure on the glue while it's curing. So my old heavy university books are perfect for that job. If you have a dictionary, in this day and age, a dictionary, that's perfect. So what we've done here, we've got some vinyl, and we glued it down to some foam. So here we have clearly foam. And I didn't cover it completely because the section I had was only yay wide, so I knew what this was going to be the back side. It wasn't going to be visible. This is going to be the facing side. That's going to be visible from the other side, or from the outside, and this is going to be on the inside. Whew. Now, what we're going to be doing is just cutting this out, and we're going to be edging it. Weldwood is really good about gluing down the facings. Because it's a much more fluid, a much more even glue. You can see here that it doesn't really pull anywhere. It doesn't get really crunchy, unlike other glues. Barge, you can use barge, but it is a heavier glue, and it will it shows up a little bit more easily. That's just a crease from it being the crease from it being folded up in the thing. I should have fixed that. Oh well. Same thing here. There's the creases here, just from it being folded fabric. But if you try, it does peel up reasonably easily. You can finish the foam just by putting some abrasion on it. That'll help out a little. But for our purposes, I'm not going to worry too much about it because we're going to be re-securing it with this hot glue. I'm going to just put down a little bit of hot glue. It wouldn't be too bad, but I wouldn't want to use hot glue over the entire surface of the foam because it leads to kind of lumpiness. You see here, it's just a little bit uneven there. And if I were to do that over the entire surface, it would drive me nuts. It would look lumpy and uneven, and it would definitely show up in shots where the light hit it. And so, if you're watching my stream, I made these gauntlets. But one thing I'm going to talk about is the hot glue has a stronger adhesion to foam and into the fabric because it can work into those porous textures. And so I'm just going to do the edge work in hot glue. Now, it's not necessary to do all of it, all the facings, but I did, if it's not going to be seen, it's quicker to work in the hot glue because, of course, as soon as it cools down, you're pretty much good to go. And in, say, the case of this fold here, I think I'm going to put down a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to try and even it out with the side of my glue gun, just to make sure that we don't have any big pockets of it. I'm going to fold it down, and then that should be okay. Again, this is going to be on the inside of the armor, and it's going to be actually on the back of the calf of the legs, so the chances of it being seen are pretty slim. But there you go. I do enjoy using hot glue because it's quick, and with the weldwood supporting it, we don't need to worry about it losing its integrity in the hot sun on some unfortunate day. So I just do the edging here. It does really nice, clean edge work. It gives the edge a bit of rigidity too. As you can see, these edges are all done in hot glue, and they've held up very well. Whereas on the inside here, the weldwood has not, because it's been moved around so much on the inside, the overlap, it's not holding up as well. I would suggest going in with some more hot glue and securing this. In fact, if I finish this piece, I'm going to take another section of vinyl and glue it down just to make it uniform on the inside, clean it up, so that none of these wrinkles are mitigated to some degree. Now, glues are real nice, but there are cases where they're not going to be particularly useful, such as this. Look, this ring. This is sewn up. Now, it's perfectly fine to sew up vinyl or foam. Some people are hesitant to it because they want to have a kind of mecha look or the robotic look. But in suits, it's totally normal to have a seam. They're realistic. And if you're using the appropriate kind of appropriate color thread, it looks just fine. And as a piece, it look okay. This is gonna be a glove, so it's reasonable to have that seam there. You can also go in with another piece of EVA foam and glue it to the inside, and that will help support it and reinforce it, and you only just have the one seam. But the issue you run into a lot of times is really hard seams, because vinyl is a pretty thick material, and so it's much more visible. You see here. So you want to work as hard as you can to work those seams into edges or creases, or to have them behind in a place where they won't be seen, because when they are seen, they are definitely seen. Also, you are gonna, if you're going to sew it, it's pretty much a hand sew job. Your sewing machine probably will not take it. If it can, you have a really good sewing machine, because I wouldn't risk it on mine. It's very likely to damage. You'll need a heavy-duty needle and all that good stuff. So I do all my vinyl or foam stitching by hand. This is fairly easy when you have a nice long seam, and it looks as long as you get a pretty even stitch, it looks pretty good. But these like tiny ring things, this is gonna be a ring set of armor for my thumb. It's kind of a huge pain in the butt, because I can only get 3-4 stitches in there in the allotted amount of space. Now, when you're stitching vinyl or foam, spacing is pretty important. When you put the stitches too close together, you run the risk of ripping the foam apart, because they are essentially pulling on the same spot too hard. You want to give each stitch a bit of space, so to dissipate the force. Also, stitching kind of tears into the foam, into the vinyl itself, thus weakening the overall integrity of the fabric and the foam. So I find that between a quarter and, say, 3/8 inch is a good spacing for your stitches. Any more dense of a stitch and you do run into that ripping problem, you can maybe go up to 1/2 inch. It depends on how much seam you have to work with, but more stitches are generally better to work with, just to make it a strong seam. You guys get the idea, I'm pretty sure. Oh well. When I'm working with the tin, I like to work over it. Let me see if I can get this open. Do I have a... Yeah, probably it's open. I have to be really careful with this. One time, years ago, I tipped it over into the carpet, and it's just... we did not get our deposit back. They definitely had to replace that patch of carpet. So I want to be extremely careful with working with this, as to not lose that again. But I'm not sure. The tool I find to be really useful is just a regular, if you have a popsicle stick, that works well too, but I have scrap plastic. And I will simply layer it on. Actually, I can do it with this because it's just scrap. Just dip it in and then let it drip over the can so it doesn't get all over the place, and spread it out. You want it to soak into the fabric, or soak in onto the EVA foam. Too much is not beneficial. You just want to spread it over and get as much surface contact as possible. And also, it's just a waste. It'll make your work lumpy, it'll make it uneven, and it doesn't really help to have more glue. Just the fact that it's this color and it's seeped into the fabric will do the job, and I'll let that sit and it'll glue down, and I'll probably never get back in. Let me see. Oh, I actually have this is my old, this is what I use to glue these down, and as you can see, it's got various spots where it's just ripped up the foam, so you can definitely tell that your glue is much stronger than the foam, and will do a good job of holding it down. There you go, guys. If that doesn't demonstrate strength, I don't know what to. Alright, so I'm going to put a lid back on this. Now, all this needs to do is give it about 6 hours, maybe 12 or a day to work, and you're good. So that's kind of the disadvantage. If you're working with hot glue, once it's to this stage, it's pretty easy work. In fact, I intend, just for style, the style of the overall look of the army, I'm going to go in with some black thread, and I'm going to run a stitch all the way around the edge here, and just stitch up the foam. And I got a pretty heavy needle here for this, and I'm going to do about 3/8 inch of a stitch. It's just a simple running stitch, and I'm going to pull this out obviously when I go on camera, because I intend to start from like a corner or something. And there you go. That's just fine. You definitely want at least an 1/8 inch from the edge, so it doesn't just simply rip right out of the foam. The vinyl gives it a lot of support, so when you're sewing, you rely much more heavily on the integrity of the vinyl than the foam. The foam is just kind of there to give it texture and form, the kind of armorness to it, give it the bulk of its shape. And vinyl and as well as foam tend to be a bit stretchy, so I've been slowly sort of stretching and working these out into a parabola, and giving it a slight concave shape to it. Oh well, I think that's pretty much it for vinyl over foam. Those are your basic techniques. Absolutely, weld wood contact cement is the way to go. I think a few other people use barge. I'm not sure what other good ones are out there. White glue, PVA glue, not a good plan. It gets crunchy. And yeah, when you're working with a really highly flexible armor like this, you don't want a crunchy armor. Super glue will eat foam. There's not nearly enough of it. It'll soak right into the fabric and it won't glue it. And if you just want to sew, the EVA directly to the vinyl, it'll hold in place, but you'll get a lot more popping off. You see that little wrinkle there? It'll be huge sections kind of shifting, and that's why we glue it down. In fact, I'm probably going to go in and put a little bit of glue there to reinforce it. This I should have fixed this. This is something I could have ironed out and fixed. Actually, be careful, because iron set on really high or reasonably high can damage EVA foam, or sorry, pleather or vinyl. Pleather is polyvinyl, plastics. Careful. All the variations. I'm not sure what else I'm going to say about this. It's a pretty simple old technique, and it does have its benefits. It's pretty nice. You can do this over rigid form armor props as well. It works in a similar fashion as the monocoat, like I said. Just simply glue it down and keep your creases really tight. With this, it's a heavier material, so your creases will not be super sharp. And to some degree, that's nice. It has this nice rounded feel to it on the outside. But there you go, guys. There's your little bit of example of me and my EVA foam technique. It's a combination of hot glue and contact cement. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Good times to all. Hey, looks like you made it all the way to the end. If you're interested in more new tutorials, con coverage, and other cosplay shenanigans every week, hit that sub button to get it delivered hot and fresh to you.